What is up, everybody? Rajay back on a Thursday night. I know you guys have missed me doing the Thursday night lives, but I do come back for special occasions, and this is actually one of those. I'm going to have Jerry Siote on here to actually talk about beer from Lone Tree Brewing out of Lone Tree, Colorado. So I know some of you are out west toward that way also, but maybe this is a brewery you've actually checked out at some point. And if so, we're going to be talking here about their Lone Tree IPA that we'll be cracking open, and then what the good things are that they are having. So that being said, let me go ahead and bring Jerry up. And Jerry, great to have you in. And we got to give a shout out to M, who got us together, M Hudo out there with Radcraft. So kudos to her as well for making the connection, and we appreciate her for doing that. And she was so funny. She's like, I finally got a reason to reach out to you. So I'm like, you don't need a reason, Em. You can reach out anytime you want to reach out on stuff.
Absolutely,
you know?
Yeah. She's great people. We're happy to have her. She puts up with us.
Yeah. So now you're actually listed there, I guess, director of Brewhouse Operations. And I know the brewery was founded back in 2011. And you came on later on, though, right? Because it was founded, I think I saw on here, I forgot the other owner's name, but you came on as a co-owner to the brewery, right?
Yeah, John Winter. He's our founder, CEO, president, all that. He's, he founded this thing in late 2011, and I've known John for 20 plus years. I went to school with his son Travis. We're college alumni buddies. So John and I have been drinking beer for a long time together, and I came in 2014. I was in the financial world. And, had enough of that. You kind of get sick of that sometimes. But no, it was a good transition for me. So I've been here about 11 years.
Okay. Excellent. And now you're actually brewing with them too. So that was the one thing I was asked. We were talking a little bit before we got started here, but you actually, are you like the head brewer then with them as well? Or you kind of overseeing operations and kind of just brew here and there? Like,
I kind of tell people I'm a utility infielder, so they just put me wherever you need me, coach. And that's, if I gotta be a janitor one day, that's fine. If I gotta do HR one day, that's fine. If I gotta schedule everything and do hop projections and grain projections for multi-year contracts, that's what I have to do. So, and I like that. And I still love brewing. I never want to lose that sharpness. So I always try to keep myself involved. Sometimes the guys, they picked up and have grown and developed really good procedures and recipes. But I still want to be involved in that just to stay sharp. So yes, I brewed yesterday. I'm going to brew tomorrow. So it's just that time of year.
Are there certain styles you really enjoy brewing, getting into, and that really catch your attention, and you're trying to, ones you really want to tweak, and they absorb more you than other styles might be, and it's kind of like, okay, we could make this one here because this is what people are asking for, but really I want to make this one over here, and you really, yeah.
The way I was kind of introduced back into craft beer, this was, back in my college days. Of course, this was early 2000s when I was going to school up at University of Colorado up in Boulder. This is like going to the tasting rooms for Avery, going to up to Fort Collins to New Belgium at the time, and drinking original Fat Tire and all the other traditional New Belgium styles at the time. So that's kind of my intro to the styles, kind of on the Belgian side and the IPA side, of course. So these days, I tend to gravitate towards the hoppier side of things. I'm still an old school West Coast IPA guy. I think that's, in a sense, kind of what made craft famous and differentiated itself from all the macro lager brands all over the world. And so, with the United States being the largest hop producer in the world now, I still think that we have an obligation to kind of hold that mantle of being the best at the hop forward styles. So, it's an endless iteration of everything that you can do in terms of, hop timing and the new products that are on the market right now. So I would say, yes, if I had a go-to style, it's a West Coast IPA.
Okay.
clear, crisp, still decently dry, but that real hop saturated flavor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the beer that we have here from Lone Tree is the Lone Tree IPA. So
Yep.
it's going to be the West Coast style then,
Yeah.
being the case. So 6.4% ABV, and bless you for putting ABV on there, and bless you for putting the date on there as well. That's
Yep.
one of those things that comes up a lot. I'm amazed that some breweries still ABV, I think you should be on it, right? So people know what they're actually drinking and how much it's hitting them. Is there some that don't do
Yeah.
that? But then date, like, I feel like if you don't have the date on it, you miss out on potential, not just the sales, but you risk being that bad experience for someone too. Because we know that some of the places you may get beer, stores and retailers, they don't always turn their stuff best, right? And they're going to come back thinking it's on their brewer rather than the store keeping product out there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
as
Yeah.
No, I was going to just ask, as a brewer, how hard is it to really get stuff there? I know some people have said in the past it's been cost type thing, but what is your thoughts on that?
I mean, so once you kind of get into the world of packaging and distribution and production brewing, quality control is, I mean, it's your entire reputation, right? So being able to stand by any of your styles out there in the market that, we stand by them, for X amount of days, to the market and to our distributors and to the public. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of, knowledge and industry knowledge and equipment and testing and quality control type of equipment that we've learned to utilize over the years, and how to keep dissolved oxygen as low as you can, how to create a very hop forward, dry hopped beer that is going to hold up and not, kind of give a surprise to a customer that's drinking it after 5 months and going, well, I know what this Lone Tree IPA tastes like when I'm at the brewery or when it's super fresh. And, if I'm getting something that's, dated or close to date and it's not what I want to experience, where's that disconnect and where's the difference? So part of my job is working with packaging and the brewers to make sure that, we have a quality product that spans from that time it gets stamped on the bottom of the can until, we guarantee that freshness. So to be honest, I mean, canning and packaging, dry hop beers, it's always going to be a challenge. And we've learned over the years what are some of the pitfalls that can happen. And we've worked really hard to mitigate that through a lot of our processes. Yeah.
Got you. Now, will you actually, because you guys, you have stuff where you have it in distribution, like through retailers and stuff too, not just at the brewery, right? Like, so do you trust a distributor to go out and check on this stuff for you? Do you kind of go out there and do spot checks yourself, or have people do it from the brewery just to pop in some places, make sure things are in good shape?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we definitely work with two distributors, one in Colorado, one in Kansas, and we guarantee through our distribution agreements with them that, hey, most of these beers, depending on style, is roughly going to be a 6-month time frame, and we guarantee freshness within that lifespan. And it's kind of up to their wholesaler reps to go out there and make sure product on the shelf is not dated, and that they rotate their stock. And then we also have salespeople from time to time that'll go out and just kind of audit things and check on things and making sure everyone's doing their job and that the beer is as fresh as it can be. I definitely do that myself. Any place I'm at, I see ourselves on the shelf, I definitely look at all those date codes and make sure everything's lining up correctly, and that everything's tasting good and as it should. So yeah, it's kind of a team effort. But if you're listening for the general public and beer drinkers out there, yes, it's definitely something that's important to all of us, from the brewing and packaging to the distributor reps.
Excellent. Yeah, it's funny when I'll go to a store and I'm going through looking and checking stuff, and sometimes they're just, anything we can help you with, like I look like an inspector product. Like, no, I'm just checking to make sure I'm not getting old beer here, So
yeah,
and you see people becoming more aware of that, like especially the people that watch the channel here. Yeah, they go out there and it gives them that little bit more to make sure they're checking and make sure they're not getting something old. Because we did have one of the guys years ago end up getting like a 6-year-old beer one time at a store.
Oh,
it was an IPA, right? So we're
no.
on camera, he's pouring it. We're like, that doesn't look right. And we had to check the date, and it was 6 years old. So
Yeah, things happen, and it's funny when I go into liquor stores now, and you just kind of stand back and you look at all those shelves and you look at all the cases and you go, wow, this is kind of terrifying. There's so many brands we're all up against, and
yeah,
at the same time, it's it's up to the consumer to make a really educated guess sometimes as to what they want to see and what they want to do. But as a brewer and an owner and a packager, I'm like, wow, we really got to make sure we're working with these key accounts and getting the customer the freshest stuff we can.
yeah.
So we're lucky here. We try to keep a very tight net around where we're at geographically, and every case we send out is important. So if we send out 50 cases to one of our largest accounts, that's just as important as a couple case drops up in the mountains, in Summit County. That beer has to be fresh too, and if it's not moving, then we all have to revisit why.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And speaking about like the retail angle, I'm gonna crack this one open here as well.
Sure. Already did, so you're behind.
When you go there, you see all the different beers. Like, what do you do? Like, how do you try to make your beer stand out? Because when I'm in there with the average consumer, so to speak, and they're looking at the cooler or they're looking at the shelf, they see all these different beers that are listed there. And it's kind of like they're glazed over, right? And so a lot of them don't even know. Like I've had conversations where people are buying beer for someone else. They're going to a party. All they know is their buddy likes IPAs, or they're just trying to pick up something to bring along to put in the cooler. So that's where it kind of gets into some of the marketing, I guess, and things along those lines. Now, with yours, I mean, it does stand out. Obviously, you're named after the town with Lone Tree where you're at. So there's definitely that community tie. We'll talk about the community-based stuff you're doing at the brewery. So I'm sure a lot of people are aware. But how do you kind of just get that like little thing to make you stand out? Is it some of the things you try to put into the writing? Some of the kind of it's tough on a space when you have like a ton of beers looking at you for the average consumer. Like, why would I want to try this one or that one? Maybe how do I catch their attention?
Absolutely, that's a great question, Rod. Like I said, I've been drinking craft beer for a very long time now, and when it came time for Lone Tree we rebranded basically all of our our packaging materials, our logos, our brand, everything that catches the eye of the consumer. That was 10 years ago. And we used a firm out of Boulder that had done a lot of craft breweries in the past, and they were extremely helpful because I suck at anything marketing. I suck at anything, when it comes to brand recognition or anything. I'm a black and white numbers guy and operations kind of guy. And so we really leaned into them heavily to say, here are 3 goals. If you walk into a liquor store, we want to be able to have the consumer stand 6 feet back from that, shelf or the case and go, okay, what beer is it, or who makes it? What type of beer is it, and why should I drink it? So to me, it's kind of that first eye test of like, I want big letters for people to see, okay, yeah, that's Lone Tree. I want that diamond to be very visible. And that's half the battle right there, to be honest. And as I just mentioned, I am not very good at this marketing side of things. So I want people to get this beer in their fridge as fast as possible. So how do you get that? How do you shortcut that versus, some brewers and some, companies like to have a very intricate art detail on theirs and different names. And I said, well, if it's an IPA, it's going to be Lone Tree IPA. If it's a double IPA, it's going to be called double IPA. If it's a red ale, it's going to be called red ale. And some people might call that boring, but that's, I guess, just kind of my black and white numbers background. I want it to be descriptive, and let's get right down to the point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Someone with marketing in their background. I mean, it's sometimes simple sells, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of brands that do well with just having that simple look, a classic look, not overpowering. That alone can make you stand out than some of the ones where we joke about some of the things there. That my buddy Todd that does the happy hour show with me, he's in there. He said, "Cheers, guys."
Yes.
It's like you get some of these cans, and it's like we joke like sometimes like an intern wrote everything up. It's like all this stuff like nobody wants to read or really cares about, right? So sometimes just having a nice, clear, succinct type look and feel is all you really need to have the attention, to grab that attention.
Yeah. And, we work with our distributor reps a lot, and after we rebranded, we wanted to kind of make everything very uniform. And you're right. Keep life simple. What works for some brewers and companies may not work for others. And so far it's treated us pretty well, and it's given us kind of a very good template and framework to make new labels and to tell the story quickly, so people can get that beer out of the cooler and into their own cooler.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think with this beer here, with the Lone Tree IPA, I mean, people can see it there. It's got basically that golden straw color or whatever. But the taste-wise of it, it does have like a cleanliness on the palate.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a nice dank resiny quality that comes through. A little bit of a grassy type feel.
Yep.
Not really overpowered. Again, like we talked before we came on, like you don't have the sweetness from like some of the other stuff that's out there now in the IPA category. Got that nice classic feel to it that kind of takes you back there. Get a little bit of like that grapefruit type peel type sensation, but drying on the back. It's a IPA. It's just like a nice, well put together, easy drinking. Not going to be something that's going to try to knock you. It's like if you're getting in a car, right, and you're settling into a nice car. Yeah. It doesn't have to have all the. It's like you get like a Volvo or a Cadillac. It's like it just feels right. It just feels good to be able to do that. It doesn't have to be the all crazy over the top type thing. It's just a nice one to just get in there. And I can easily see where some people could put back, 2 or 3 of these and just be relaxed and chill out by the campfire, out doing whatever in the house after cutting, whatever they're doing. It's just a nice, easy drinker to actually put down.
That's thank you for saying that. I think any brewer would love to hear that. I mean, what I've learned in craft brewing, I mean, this is the only craft brewing job I've ever had, and this is all I know. I drink a lot of beer from all over the world, but drinkability should always supersede everything, in my opinion. So like we were talking about before we got on here, it's that 2 or 3 beer test, right? If you can sit down and you can drink 2 or 3 of these, that's probably veering towards a really good beer. Some people might go, well, that's an interesting beer, but I can only have one. It's like, okay, well, believe it or not, we are in business to sell beer,
right?
We have to sell beer, and so I do want volume to follow that responsibly, of course. But that 2 or 3 beer test of like, yes, can you sit down, not have to overly, stress about what's in there, why is it good, why isn't it good? Just, does it taste good? Great. Will you have another one? Yes. Okay, then that's a good beer.
Yeah, definitely. It's got, like I said, this one, good mouthfeel. IPA, everybody knows IPA, you're thinking the bitterness, but I've had some IPAs that can hit you being overly bitter, right? And this one has a nice, smooth bitterness to it. It lets you know it's there. It's got that hoppy type feel to it, but then it just settles in, right? And even if I'm talking here after those 2 initial drinks, it's like I still have all that flavor still kicking around. I can still feel like the hops like in my throat area. I can just, it sticks around nicely. It's just one of those ones. This is a good, what I would call like conversation type beer, right? Where you can just drink it, you can sit it down. It's going to warm. It's going to give you some more flavor as it comes out, and you can still keep picking it up. You don't have to race through it. That's what makes it really a nice drinkable type beer, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I mean, like I said, we went back to the drawing board after, we came out with our Lone Tree IPA, 7 years ago out into the market. It was slightly lower in ABV. It was hovering around the like 5.8 range, so it was technically more in like the pale category. And so, we had some old school hops in there, and there's so many incredible varietals out there now that the farmers are doing. And so we changed all the hops. There's 4 hops in this one. It kind of goes back to a little bit of that old school pine resin dankness that you were picking up. That's in this Chinook. It does have bitterness. I still want bitterness in there. It does. We listed as 55 IBUs, and it consistently tests there. So I want IBUs still in there. I don't want people to forget what IBUs actually taste like from the boil day. And so, yes, it's got Chinook, which is an old standby. It also has some New Zealand hops in there with Nelson Sauvin, which has throws a nice like grape and white wine characteristic to it.
Yeah, I get that too, with the white wine in the background. Yeah.
And then another cool story, if I can ramble for a bit, cut me off whenever. But I took the brewers to the Yakima Valley last year for hop school. Yakima Chief Hops does a hop school every year, and we got to see the farms. We got to see them starting their harvest season, and we visited a farm in the Yakima Valley that we fell in love with. They grow a hop called Brew One. Throws a lot of like really strong pineapple characteristics to it too. That's kind of a late flavor aroma hop that we use in this one. And we fell in love with that. We got to tour the fields and feel them on the vines there. And it was kind of a really spiritual almost experience to be able to do that. So that was kind of the cornerstone piece of how we finished this IPA. So it was just really kind of a farm to brew day type of collaboration. And we think it turned out really well. So, and again, it drinks like a anything else you'd want to drink 2 or 3 of.
Yeah. I mean, it's got that smooth drinkability with it. And I actually talked to a few of the Yakima Hops people out at Craft Brewers Conference. Did you go out to Indianapolis? Did you send a crew out there?
No, we didn't. Not this year. Yeah.
Okay. But if you go to Philly next year, I'll be in Philly too. So we can definitely try to connect out there too, because that's where it's going to be. So
absolutely. It's been a while. I'd love to go back out.
Yeah. And then to get to and I noticed one of the flagship beers, so we'll talk about that here in a second, but go to one of the controversial topics, so to speak, right?
Sure.
And it was interesting because it was on your website, which made me think of it. So there's mentioned that one of the few breweries in Denver metro area that allows dogs inside.
Oh
yeah. So is it kind of like this whole thing? And I bring this up and I say controversial because we've had debates about dogs in breweries or even like children in breweries. Is it something like in the Denver area where a lot of breweries are more not having like people to bring in? And you got to be just like patio type thing. And like, what do you kind of see there? And then like, has it ever gotten like really crazy? Like when people do bring their, I'm just kind of curious just to see from a brewer's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and this is Colorado. I mean, it's hard to find anybody without a dog in Colorado. It's just a very dog friendly type of state. And we're very outdoorsy. We like to get out to the mountains and, bring our dogs on hiking, biking, camping, that kind of thing. And we're 19 miles south of Denver. So we're kind of in the suburbs down here in Highlands Ranch area. So ton of families, ton of young kids and kids growing up down here. So we're very family friendly. We're very dog friendly. We're dog friendly if your dog is friendly.
Right. There are limits sometimes. Yeah.
So, we haven't, a handful of issues over the years, but it hasn't been bad. The city of Denver has a no dog policy now, but we're in Lone Tree, of course. So yeah, dogs inside and on the patio. So long as they're leashed and, on pretty good behavior dogs and usually no problems. There's always going to be a handful of issues every now and then, but for the most part, it hasn't been terrible. And like I said, I'm a dog owner myself, and my guy's kind of crazy. He's a 4-year-old little mutt, and he's I know that he does not do well in brewery-like settings, so we don't bring him to breweries.
Yeah. I saw that. I was thinking like, well, if it's something where you guys can have that in there, and thinking of people I know, like you said, in Colorado, where a lot of people do have dogs, I'm like, that's got to be a great selling point to the brewery that you can actually bring your dog in. But I know there's some people on the fence that don't like seeing dogs in there, or it could be contentious at times, I think, for some spots. So
yeah.
yeah,
I think it's a kind of geographically, based, and
yeah,
if it's a culture thing and people are okay with it, then everyone's going to get along. But hey, if someone can bring their dog in and have them chill with them for a while, and they can have one more beer, we're fine with that too.
yeah, not a problem at all. And not that it's a correlation or any type of relation to it, so to speak, like children in brewery, like, or is there like anything with that you see there? Or do you guys no issues that you run into? I know there's been some breweries that they go like, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the evening, past this point, children can't be in. I'll let them in during the daytime, or if they serve food, they're allowed. I know you guys don't have, I believe, food there, but you have the food trucks and stuff that come in. So
correct, yeah, no food. We don't serve food on site, but we have food trucks 7 days a week, both locations here and in Parker, and so. No, we are very, kid friendly. Just so long as mom and dad or whoever's, kind of keeping an eye on things. We do, want to make sure that our staff is safe, that everyone that's in our establishment is being responsible and safe. And if it gets to the point where it's a problem, we do have to have that conversation, with the parents or the caretakers. But for the most part, we're very lucky, and I think I hate to say it this way, it's like we couldn't afford to like not have kids come in, because we have so many families here, and mom and dad want to come in, have a beer, and we have, of course, non-alcoholic options and sodas for the kids, and food trucks. So we try to make it a family friendly environment, but yeah, it's kind of a necessity for us down here. But like I said, we are running a business. We are serving our own beer. So we want to make sure we're doing everything legally, of course, and, making sure everyone's safe and having a good time.
Excellent. And then the other thing that jumped off, like looking at the website, the community focused tap room, as mentioned on there. So anything that can elaborate more on that, like with like the whole, and then seeing some of the images, you have the different community folks coming in, but like, what helps you to establish kind of that? Because I feel like nowadays, to be a brewery, and looking at where some people where the reports say people don't go out as much as they used to and things like that, you always got to make an experience to get people into the brewery. Right. So how do you kind of do that? Like how you work that in and make it like, where people definitely want to come out and have fun?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge for our tasting room managers, all the time is, back in the day when breweries were, kind of popping up everywhere, and it was quote easy back in the day to just let's throw on, let's open the doors, we'll put 4 or 5 beers on, and people will just flood in, and that's all you had to do. But times change. It's gotten more competitive. Stylistically, you have to be very in tune with what's trending and what's popular, and people are looking for that experience, especially post-COVID. I mean, all the rules kind of changed post-COVID. Of people do want to be out. They don't want to just come in and grab a 6-pack out of the to-go cooler and go home and drink in their basement. They want to be out. So what are they going to do? They want to do game nights. They want to do trivia. They want to do, live music it's good in doses, in my opinion. It depends on the venue. It depends on the musician. And if you have a culture that accepts kind of that live music type of environment. Sometimes, I don't know if you have the same thing, Rod, where you kind of just want to go have a beer and just hang out with some friends, and all of a sudden you get dosed with some live music. You're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
I've been there. Yeah.
So there's a time and a place. And I think the more creative you get with your events, and then the default is always you have to have great beer to go along with it.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
you do have to be creative. And like I said, that we have some really talented people here and creative people that come up with things for, workout classes for yoga. We've had, baby goats out on the patio, to like almost a goat petting type of, event. And the amount of people that come out for that is astonishing. So, you got to try hard these days. You got to be creative. And I think we do a pretty good job, and we're really lucky with how much space we have to do all that.
Yeah, and talking with a lot of breweries, I mean, it's almost becomes that destination type night, like that. You have to have that reason to get people out there, right? So you got to definitely be creative in that regard.
Exactly. And the days of just, like we said, putting a couple beers on tap or just having a new beer release and hoping that'll draw everybody in. I mean, yeah, you can still do that, and I know a lot of breweries that do well with that. And but yeah, I think the more creative and the more effort that you show in your community, I think people respond to that pretty well.
Yeah, I would definitely concur there. So you have this beer, and this is one of the 6, I think, flagship that you have, and which I thought the one was interesting because one is a blueberry blonde, which I would say, like, because somebody's a flagship, you might think the blonde, right? But then you're like, oh, blueberry blonde, because fruit can sometimes like section off people, right, away from being a traditional beer type drinker. But you guys are able to pull it off. So that's like one of your things. You have the double IPA.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Mexican lager, which did win gold, I know, at Great American in the past here. And then another one was the peach pale, which I do like the peach pale, but a pale ale with the peach, again, it can go either way, right? And of course, you have the red ale as well. But for you, like, which one of those are stand out for you in that? Like, is there one that you really passionately were kind of like? I mean, you can like them all, but I'm just saying, was there one that was kind of like, this one really hits the spot for me?
I mean, the double IPA, as we were talking about earlier, I've always been a hop forward guy myself, but I am not the one, out there in the market or in the tap rooms all the time, ordering beers. So what I like is sometimes not so important, but I think it's important to be well-rounded. And I think anytime you can show that you can execute styles from across the spectrums, and those are your flagships, you are a, quote, well-rounded brewery. And we sell a lot of Mexican lager. It's our biggest seller. It's a light yellow fizzy beer, and it's got 3 GABF medals, and we're very proud of that. There's a lot of Mexican lagers out there now from the craft community, and I think it's a good thing for the craft beer drinker. But in terms of being diversified, I want us as a brewery and our brewers to never lose focus on being able to have all the tools in your tool bag to be able to execute whatever the case may be, or whatever flagship that we're trying to produce day in and day out. So the fruit beers, I'm not a super sweet fruit beer guy, but our fruit beers drink like beers, and I think that's the best compliment you could give to a fruit beer, in my opinion, because they should still be beers, right? They shouldn't be fruit cocktails, or trying to do something that's not within the guidelines or what we're trying to do from a flavor perspective. So both of our fruit beers that are flagships do drink like real beers, and I think that's the best compliment we could receive. That yes, it's still a beer, but it does have a nice fruit characteristic to it.
Yeah, and I think with something like the Mexican lager, that has become one of the styles now. It's, I guess, officially recognized by the BJCP or whatever, right? But it's been one of those styles that's been added into what I would put like the crossover beer area. Yeah. So you have your blonde, you have your Mexican lager, you have your golden ale. For those that are like more the macro type drinkers, and they want to kind of they want to get away too far much from their bud or milk, here's an opportunity to kind of get them to kind of think and get them on that path. They're like, oh, okay, I can drink with this. And then slowly you add a Kolsch or you add some other stuff in there, and they start to move along a little bit more. So that's been a great thing. So if you can make a great Mexican lager, it's definitely a way to win some people over. And I think to your point, having diversification, having like these type of things that are always on tap, you pretty much have something there for almost everybody that comes in. And I think when I looked on the one for the Lone Star, we didn't talk about the Lone Tree location. We didn't talk about the other one because you have another one in Parker too.
Yeah.
But there was a seltzer. So you guys are making a seltzer as well?
Yes.
So how's that been going for you?
Yeah, I think we're all about trying to get as many people together in our doors as possible, right? And so the seltzer movement, that was kind of I don't know, controversial sticking point with a lot of brewers back in the day where, we're never going to do that, or a lot of brewers really leaned into that because we have all the equipment, we have all the capability, we have all the ingredients to execute this and do it well. And so some people just, you might have a group that comes in and three out of the 4 people are big beer people and one person is not, and they would just love a seltzer. And so I would rather have all of them there. We're not going to go over the top and do too much in the seltzer world, but we know how to execute it very well. And it's good for people that don't like beer or can't drink a lot of beer for other allergy reasons. Nothing in our brewery is gluten-free. We do have gluten-reduced products, which we call our seltzer as well.
Right.
We don't have that certification, of course, but we're all about inclusion, right? So I'd rather that group of 4 come in, that one person gets a seltzer, the other people get 3 beers and, buy another round. And that's what keeps them here. And that's something that was kind of a no-brainer for us. And we have the tank capacity and we have the fermentation capability to do all that, with our yeast suppliers and our, ingredient suppliers. So yeah, a lot of breweries, they tried to hold off for a while, or it was just, they were just philosophically against it. And, we all have our soapboxes from time to time, but we're in business to sell liquid here. If a seltzer goes out every once in a while, that's fine too.
Yeah, well, I think they get to a point. We were talking about this at CBC with a few people. It's meeting the consumer where they are. So the writing's on the wall that there's businesses out there to be had, and I brought up the point talking in a group and say, if you got like 5 people going out and just one of them says it's not an option for them, but they all want to go out, and they see another spot that has that option, those 5 people are now going where the one person wants to go. It can sway just that quickly. The other 4 are like, well, I want to go here regardless. A lot of times, if they're going out as a group, they're going to go where everybody can actually find something. So if you're not in that game, you're getting passed by or passed along or not even getting looked at, right? So
absolutely,
it makes sense to have that. But now that you guys have gotten into the seltzer thing, because obviously being in Colorado, because you guys are out there kind of on the frontier, is it something where you're now looking maybe down the line for the THC drinks at all, or has that come up in discussions, or you're not really to that spot yet where you want to consider those, or you just want to?
Yeah, we still can't do it under our license here with THC. I mean, THC is legal, recreationally legal in Colorado.
Right.
Under our manufacturing license right now, we cannot do that. We are kind of strictly into that beer and seltzer type of production, of course. But we've dabbled into the space of a non-alcoholic seltzer that is made with hop terpenes or hop oils, and hemp oil, which there's the product that we do. We call it euphoric. There's no alcohol, there's no THC, and there's no CBD. But it does have a lot of the flavor characteristics of hop and CBD without those components in the drink itself. So in my mind, that was our nod to the non-alcoholic sector, where it was still somewhat of a beer, it had characteristics of the beer world, with the hop terpenes and the hop oils, along with, the hemp oils in there as well. So don't do a lot of volume in that right now, but That's something we were experimenting with for quite some time, and we'd still like to kind of continue that. But I'm a beer guy. John's a beer guy. I think we started this with the intention of keeping people happy with beer, and I think that should be where our bread is buttered, and I think that's still the game plan.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I know here locally, one of the breweries, they do a little bit of THC, but it couldn't be under them, so they had to team up with someone else. Like you said, the license type thing where they're actually kind of doing it that way. But I see it rising, at least here in Ohio, in popularity. So, and obviously in Colorado, they're one of the first ones that had the legalization and all that kind of stuff. So it just seems like there's definitely an opportunity out there too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I'm all for all those people that have the capacity and have the capability and the confidence to go out and do something that's a good product. We're all about whatever you do, just try to do it well. I mean, if you try to go 50% into something, you're going to look like a fraud, and that's my biggest fear at the end of the day. I don't want to look like a fraud.
Yeah, you go all in, right? Yeah,
right.
And then talking about the flagship beers, but you also have the seasonals you roll out and stuff too. So is there a certain number you try to roll those out under, or how you bring them back? Because I did see the one out there, which was the brownie stout that looked good from the right up on it. I saw it, and I was like, is it coming back anytime soon? Like,
that was popular, and geez, as well as I do, everything tastes change, hour by hour sometimes. So we try to stay on the leading edge of that without trying to drive ourselves crazy. And you and I were talking about this, Rod, before we got on too, is you and I like Belgians and stouts, and we can drink those any time of year. But the larger beer drinking community and our customers, they tend to drink with the seasons, and it's really hard to justify or occupy tank space with something maybe super high gravity, super high alcohol, or very dark, very malty in the middle of summer, just because of volume sales just aren't going to be there, at least for us. We're just not known for that. So we have to be pretty strategic in terms of, well, if we really, really, really want to make a 6% oatmeal stout in June, okay, let's do it. But our distributor is going to want maybe a little bit less of that versus some of the other lighter styles, maybe like a Hefeweizen or a Kolsch, like you were saying earlier. So we have to be, in the end, we have a responsibility to the business to make sure that we're utilizing the equipment and all of our labor and our costs effectively. But sometimes we just want to brew something and put it out there just because we want to. And I don't think people should be afraid of that. But I think, business and the math sometimes has to coincide with, your decision-making process from the creative side. And so, we spin around in circles sometimes talking about different styles, but we know generally what sells season to season. But at the same time, I don't want to get too stagnant, right? The brownie stout did so well, and then we'll switch it, maybe we'll bring it back a year and a half later or something, or sometime back in the wintertime when we know it's somewhat of a friendly environment or a friendly season to bring that back.
Sure.
For everybody's, interests. So
yeah. Because like right now, I know you got like the Oktoberfest is one of your seasonals out there too.
Yeah, and it gets released earlier every year, it feels like.
I was actually surprised that it made it to August this year, because it seems like it was getting pushed up previous, and surprisingly, maybe not a bad thing, but they actually held off pumpkin beers this year for a lot of places, which were usually in July. I don't see as many pumpkin out yet, but I know they're starting to hit a lot more right now. But you guys don't do a pumpkin, though. Have you thought about doing a pumpkin, or did you do one before?
We do one batch a year. We do 20 barrel batch a year, and that's all we do. We've never packaged that, just because it's a good point that you brought up, Oktoberfest and pumpkin. While you think that might be somewhat of a fall seasonal, so many breweries now that are packaging these two type of styles, they tend to want, and we're in the same boat with Oktoberfest. We do a Märzen style Oktoberfest, and so we had to release this, a couple weeks ago to our distributor because there's going to be so many out there in the market, and if you wait too long, and unfortunately, when it's almost Oktoberfest season, if you tend to come out with that early September, you're already way behind all the other producers that are out there and breweries that are out there with Oktoberfest SKUs. So you kind of get lost in the shuffle if you don't hit that early. But I agree with you. I mean, I had a Märzen today. We just tapped in the tasting room, and it's 102 degrees in Denver today. So it feels a little weird.
It does feel weird. Yeah.
It's a good beer, so let's still drink it,
Yeah, and I've told that before, like some of the shows and stuff, like it becomes a thing of musical chairs. No one wants to be the last one out there because then they get stuck, right? So that's why you're seeing some of these things hit the market a little earlier with the pumpkin or the Oktoberfest beers. But points to you too, because you said Märzen, which I was enjoying because it's just like I see some people say Marzen, and it's like that's not. Yeah. I mean, that's the American version, I guess, pronounce it. But I'm like,
yeah,
when a regular person does it, I'm like, okay. But I feel like when you're a brewer, you should know how to pronounce it. So
I'm terrible with languages, but if someone named it and that's the way they want it said, then that's how we're going to say it.
Yeah. Not to be too much of a sticker on it, but I just feel like, you should probably know how to say it if you're going to be putting it out there. Going back to the food truck thing. So you don't do the food there. You have the food trucks coming in, but like, do you ever work with them, like when doing pairings? Like if you know what food truck's coming in, that way you can prepare and let people know what beers, like you kind of get that with the community getting involved. Like we're going to have so-and-so mac and cheese in or whatever, who it may be. And this beer will really pair well. Like, do you guys do stuff like that and everything too?
Oh yeah. And, we've had food trucks with us for a decade plus, or since we opened the doors, that are still doing it after 14 years with us. And, it does really well with dessert pairings. We've had a lot of success around February. Of course, Valentine's Day we're able to get away with a lot more maltier stout styles, of course, too, around that time frame. So pairs very well with the chocolate and things of that nature for trucks and other type of brick and mortar places that want to do tastings and food pairings too inside our building. But we've had food trucks do special events that we will do, beers with them as well. But yeah, it's been a very nice, symbiotic relationship with the food trucks because we got into this to do beer. They got into food to do food. So why not just, shake hands and, set up together. And we've found that to be just a very natural partnership over the last 14 years. And we kind of want to keep it that way. And I think our community has really responded well to it.
Excellent. And also with some of the licensing type stuff, it makes nice. You have to put in a lot more if you're going to put in food from your brewery, right? So it makes it a little bit more easier on that end too, to have them come in and be off on the side, on the premise, but doing a food truck rather than you having a full kitchen and have to go through all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would be a different license for us. It'd be a brew pub license rather than just the manufacturing license. And so with this, we're able to kind of, take out all that type of extra logistical and legal framework. And along with, John and I didn't get into this to make food. We got into it to make beer. And there's so many great food trucks out there that can produce so much different variety in a 7-day week that, we could never do if we had our own, kitchen on site. So I think that's, people love variety and it suits us well, especially for timing of new seasonals and, things of that nature. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And one thing, like for you and John, like what do you think might have been or might be the biggest challenge you had in running the brewery? If there is a challenge you've had to overcome or anything along those lines.
Yeah. I mean, there's challenges every day and, thank goodness we're still passionate about it because it doesn't matter what you do in life, and I've told this to a lot of people, and they go, "Oh, you make beer for a living. Every day's got to be just how awesome is that? That's got to be great." I'm like, "Well, let's get you a pair of rubber boots, and you can come alongside and see what it's like." I mean, not every day is is all roses.
No,
and especially COVID taught us a lot too, right? And we are all subject to the greater whole of this small little planet, and it's such a we have such an appreciation now for how connected we all are with the ingredients we get from all over the world. And from a global trade perspective, we don't have to get into it now, but it's tough right now, and we get ingredients from all over the world. So it's along with the state we live in, and that's fine too. But the major challenges going forward are obviously climate change. We are subject to what grows on this planet in the right season, and has to be in the volume that satisfies everybody. But that changes, and we have to kind of roll with those punches too. So, that's just from a raw ingredient standpoint, those are challenges. And I remember back in the day, hop contracting is probably the hardest part of my job, to figure out how to look 3 years out at what people want to drink in that volume, and making sure our flagships are taken care of in terms of hop contracting, because the farmers need to know, and I think they deserve a very as accurate as they can type of projection from the brewers to be able to put rhizomes in the ground to be able to keep their businesses alive as well. So and then getting into just keeping good employees and keeping your employees happy, and making sure that they're feeling valued and being a part of the business. That's always a challenge, and John and I have spent a lot of time over the years and a lot of pitchers of beer trying to figure out, how do we keep good people? And if you don't have good people, you might as well just fold the whole thing up and go back to home brewing, So that's always the biggest challenge. And COVID taught us a lot, and that was a tough time to get through. But I think there's solutions out there, but there's a lot of headwinds for us right now in the craft brewing world, and different trends and global trade and things of that nature. But such is the story of all of humans, right? We've always had challenges. So I'm not going to complain too much. We got it pretty good now.
Well, that was the big thing I was going to ask there too. You kind of hinted on a little bit around there. We did a couple videos a few months back ahead of the storm, right? Like letting people know ahead, which now we're seeing possibly go into fruition as of today and yesterday or tomorrow, whatever. The whole thing with the tariffs, like how did you have to prepare yourself? Because, we're the top hop producer, but when it comes to like grains, we get a lot of grains imported, and we have other things. And like some of the hop farms, they've had issues with some of the workers and stuff like that, being able to go out there and pull the hops because of some of the things happening. So have you had to find ways to insulate yourselves, or I know one brewery down south, they've stocked up already like on the cannon for aluminum cans because of the price, and that was going to change, right? There's people that do that. Like, have you felt like you've had to do some things to play defense out there a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we just heard that all our New Zealand hops are going to be hit with a 10% tariff. Although that it's different sometimes if you had a contract in place versus if you were buying on the spot market. Right. So I could see where a brewer would kind of get that news, and that would spur them to go out and maybe spend a little more, dip into their savings, and try to get more boxes in their cooler of certain varieties from the prior crop year, because they know that the tariffs are coming further down the line. But I mean, it's been such a chaotic whirlwind of who's getting tariffed and at what percentage, and now it's off, now it's on. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to make an intelligent business decision based on, the 24-hour news cycle right now, because we just don't know. And so
And
the
that's
best
it, the not knowing. Yeah.
yeah, the best thing that we can do, that we've been doing for years, is making sure that we get our hop contracts in pretty good shape for at least a 2-year span or more, along with our barley contracts. But outside of that, I mean, you do the best you can on everything else. I mean, fruit puree for the blueberry blonde or the
Mhm.
peach pale ale, that's subject to a lot of things as well. Or
Yeah.
it's the little things that you don't think about, like filter pads that we filter all the lagers with that come
Mhm.
from Germany. It's hard to stock up your cooler with that, when you've only had to buy them for a set or two at the time. So we are in somewhat uncharted territories here. And I think the best thing to do is to not to panic, but to utilize whatever capital you do have,
Mhm.
and whatever cooler space you have. Or we don't have a warehouse to store 1 million aluminum cans. So how do we smartly and economically prepare for that? But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of breweries are in our same boat, and we don't have hundreds of thousands of square feet to store all this stuff. So we do the best we can.
Yeah. It's funny. I would hear occasionally people say, "Oh, they could just go to bottles." Like, it doesn't work that way. It's just not as
No,
simple. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not something you can kick over.
yeah, there's not a ton of elasticity when it comes to packaging
Yeah.
equipment sometimes.
Yeah. Between the machines, and you get to restock it, and it's okay.
Yeah,
They just think, "Oh, you can just do this." No, you
not,
can't.
nothing's ever easy. Sometimes we pretend it is, but
But before we wrap up here in a bit, something of a positive, I think, if there was anything like that, anything that you could think of, like what was your greatest feedback you received, like from a customer or a patron, that kind of made you really feel, okay, this is why I'm doing it type thing. Have you ever gotten that, or you've kind of, had that kind of happen?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, we've had regulars here for 14 years, and
Mm,
they just said it always just feels like home. And
mm,
a while back, we had a regular who was in the he lived in the Highlands Ranch area, and he was a worker at Coors, and had
mhm,
various roles at Coors up in Golden. And I'd always see him drinking, and I would sit down and say, hey, what do you I'm be very critical. Like, you're around a very quality intensive product that gets scrutinized, by the minute up there. Why do you come drink beer here? He goes, because I know what it's going to taste like. And to
mm,
me, as a brewer, knowing that someone that works at a plant that makes 25 million barrels a year comes in and says, your quality is something that I can rely on, or your consistency as well. I think, to me, that it's, to some people that might be boring, but to us, that to me is what keeps our people paid. That's what keeps the lights on. That's what
mhm.
keeps the parties happening in the event spaces, um, and that's what keeps me coming back to work every day. I love having a job no matter what I'm doing, but I love making beer, and if I can do it consistently, I never want to suck at anything. That's just what I've told
Yeah.
myself. And so that to me validates a lot of hard work from all of our brewers, all of our staff, all of our front of house. And to me, being consistent, quality driven, and boring can win the race.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about there.
Yeah.
Are there any of the beer, or any of one of the beers that really surprised you on how popular it became, and kind of you're like, I didn't even run with that one. They really like that. Like, that one just caught you off guard as being so popular.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen multiple cycles of, drinking phases, back in the day. Remember the brewed IPAs? Those were really
Hmm.
popular back in the day. I didn't think those would go anywhere. I honestly thought the hazy IPA would have died a little while ago, but I've been really wrong on that for a decade now.
Yeah.
And, we're old school, IPA drinkers. So we like
Yeah.
the clear West Coast IPAs, but again, another polarizing style that it doesn't matter how, when we release a hazy IPA or how long we do or what batch size, it still always sells really well, right?
Yeah.
And again, I never want to suck at it. So I tell the brewers these are all still important too, and we got to make sure this is the best representation of whatever we're doing, even if it's not our cup of tea. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's been great having you on. Before we go, what exciting projects or any beers should we look forward coming out of Lone Tree next? Like, anything away from the flagship that you're working on that you want to people keep their eye on coming up, fall, winter?
Yeah, it's like I said, I try not to get too out in front of our skis here, and try to plan. We generally sit down every November and we'll plan out the upcoming year with seasonals and seasonal releases. And we know what sells well, but like I said, I want to challenge the brewers, and I want them to know that we should be able to execute just about everything. And there are so many really cool hop products now with a lot of the hop suppliers and a lot of the farmers that they're working with to do very, hop terpene products, emulsified products that can create like really good, not even for IPAs, for West Coast Pilsners, for doesn't even have to be a hop forward beer, 20 IBUs, 30 IBUs type of styles that we can really layer in that hop saturation flavor. And that's, I think, what our goal is going to be for 2026. How do we put Lone Tree on the map for being able to still consistently make Mexican lager, red ale, peach, blueberry, but at the same time give just world-class pale ale, IPA, hazy, whatever you want to call it. I think there's been so much hard work done by those hop companies that I want us to be able to be a big player in that realm too.
Gotcha. And right now, just Colorado and Kansas, or where you're distributing, those are the only two states right now.
That's it right now. And we were in other states before, and I think without having kind of the infrastructure, the salespeople in on the ground too much, I think it's best to be kind of in your neighboring states and in your really concentric geographic circles. So that's what we're focused on, and we just want to put the best product out there that we can.
Excellent. Definitely agree. But thanks again, Jerry, for coming on tonight. And
you're welcome.
There you go. Give you a little applause. But
thank you.
You want to hang out for a second? We'll get wrapped up here. But for those of you that are listening back on the podcast, if you're watching on the review, if you're watching on the replay, then in the comments, I do have the link to the Lone Tree Brewing site, but in the podcast notes, I'll have that there too. Make sure to check it out, especially for those of you that I know that are out there in that Colorado area and out towards Kansas. And we also know some of us have some beer mail trade routes that you might be able to get some stuff sent your way too. So I can tell you that the Lone Tree IPA definitely does deliver. Can only imagine the other ones as well. Always hard to get a good red ale. So I'm pretty sure that Jerry's nailing that too, because you can tell from the passion and what he's bringing. It's like cooking. You got that passion in there. It makes that much better, right? So it's definitely worth checking out. Thank you again, my friend. I have more questions, but we got to save some stuff for next time. Next time.
That's right.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you are watching this back on the replay, we will be back tomorrow night, Friday night. I'll have Dave from Beer in Front. We'll have the second edition of the Midwest Beer News. So we'll be hitting on some stuff that's also taking place around here and some other things nationally. That being said, we're done. We're wrapping up, and we will see you next time. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you all. Cheers.